Stephen Mater is an American hero. Now, if you don't remember who this man is, he was a police officer that was fired for refusing to shoot an unarmed, well, not unarmed, sorry, a suicidal man instead of being lauded for it, he was actually fired for it. Now, it's actually kind of still hard to think about it. Somebody getting fired for not killing somebody. Now, this person was more of a threat to himself than he was to others. Now, let me give you the story here. Now, last year, almost last year, this was May 6, 2016, in West Virginia, somebody, they had received a call from a woman that said that a man, Ronald J. Williams, was armed with a knife and he was threatening to kill himself. So this is a domestic disturbance call. Now, there's a second call from the woman, the same woman, that said that Williams had gone to get a gun that was in his car, but the gun was not loaded. So first he had a knife and he was threatening to hurt himself. Then he got a gun, which was unloaded, and he was still threatening to hurt himself. Now, when that happened, after that call had happened, they called in Stephen Mater, who was a police officer, and he did what a police officer should do. He tried to de-escalate the situation. He tried to save Williams' life. Unfortunately, during that call, another officer showed up on the scene and ended up fatally shooting Williams just minutes later. Or, I'm sorry, just seconds later after arriving at the scene. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this story up is because we have a little bit of an update at what Stephen Mater is actually doing at this point. Now, on Wednesday, Mater had filed a lawsuit against the city of Weirton, claiming that he was wrongfully terminated, that his constitutional rights were violated, and that the city thereafter had engaged in a pattern of retaliation designed to destroy his reputation. Now, this suit was filed on Mater's behalf by the ACLU of West Virginia and attorney Timothy P. Bryan. Now, O'Brien says the city of Weirton's decision to fire Officer Mater because he chose not to shoot and kill a fellow citizen when he believed that he should not use such force not only violated his constitutional rights, common sense, and public policy, but incredibly punishes restraint. When given the tragic and far too frequent unnecessary use of deadly force, such restraint should be praised and not penalized. To tell a police officer, when in doubt, either shoot or kill or get fired, either shoot to kill or get fired, is a choice that no police officer should ever have to make and is a message that is wrong and should never be sent. Now, that is an incredibly powerful statement, saying that we should not have police get punished for making a decision to save someone's life or to try to save someone's life, to actually put themselves in a little bit of danger, which we pay them for, put themselves in a little bit of danger to try to save the life of someone else who, look, Williams' position, this guy was suicidal. He wanted to hurt himself. He was despondent. He was going through a rough patch, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who could say, well, I've been through a similar rough patch. And, you know, I might have, I'm not talking personally here, but I do know some people who at one point were suicidal and possessed firearms. Now, what would happen if a police officer were called into that situation? That person might be dead. Whereas today, that same person who was very much alive is actually happy they were able to get through that rough patch. They were able to get themselves some help. When you shoot people, going through that issue and kill them, you don't give them a chance to be able to put themselves back on track. And so this shooting was completely unjustified, as was the firing. Mater was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to save a life, which is what the police were supposed to be about. Or at least that's what we always grew up what we grew up believing, that the police were there to help us, not kill us. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case, at least in Weirton, West Virginia. Now, this situation is also why I bring up the training, right? Now, Mater was previously in the military, so he received extra training. It turns out that it's very important to be able to show restraint when you're serving overseas. Because again, you don't know who's a terrorist, you don't know who's not a terrorist, and you can't just go around shooting everybody. That's ridiculous, that's awful. So they're trained to de-escalate these situations in every way possible. Our police are not trained that way. Our police are trained, shoot first, ask questions later. If you feel like you're in any sort of danger, well then, you are allowed to shoot. And we're actually going to tell you, to prioritize shooting somewhere over de-escalation. And that's essentially what firing Stephen Mader has actually done. So again, that's a powerful statement here. Killing a citizen should be an absolute last resort, not the first resort, especially if you're aware, as the police officer should be, that that gun might not have even been loaded. And that the man is suicidal, who wants to harm himself. Now, after being fired, Mader alleges that he gave interviews with local media and says that the city almost immediately sought to punish him through a campaign of press conferences, misinformation, and untrue allegations, including falsehoods, about his performance during his 10 months on the job when the incident took place. Look, I think it's less of animus against Mr. Mader and more of like, ooh, cover your ass, cover your ass, cover your ass. We made a mistake. One of our officers shot and killed this person that they didn't have to, and we fired this officer. Now we got to cover our ass. Now we got to smear this guy. Great. So again, fire a guy, smear him for doing the right thing. All for trying to de-escalate the situation. Again, according to Mader, Williams was more of a threat to himself than anyone else. And the police, as I argued, should be trying to save lives, not end them. That's why we need better training. Now, maybe there might be a good thing after this lawsuit, whatever happens, that might help them try to change that training. Now, another great point made by Mader's lawyer says that one of the ironies of this case is that we've seen across the country how many instances of police have used deadly force in circumstances where that force is questioned, yet nothing is ever done. In fact, in most cases, you don't see training or suspension. So no additional training and no suspension for killing somebody who didn't necessarily need to die, didn't necessarily present a clear danger to police officers. Now, he says when you contrast what Officer Mader did and how he's been treated, and officers who've used deadly force and how they've been treated, it speaks volumes to why we have a problem with deadly force in this country. Now, one example I want to give you is the obvious one, Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice had a fake gun, a toy gun, and he was shot and killed within 3 seconds. The police pulled up, immediately shot him. Dead. Again, this wasn't a real gun, it was a toy gun. And somebody who called, the person who called, said, I don't know, I think it might not be a real gun, I think it might be a fake gun, but please check it out anyway, if you could. Well, they checked it out in 3 seconds, and they determined within those 3 seconds that this person had to die. Yeah. And look, that's not the only high-profile case. There are plenty of other high-profile cases where police, those officers, have shot and killed somebody without needing to, without actually trying to de-escalate the situation. And now, likely, it seems to be happening more to minorities, but it also happens to other people. And in a lot of cases, they happen to go free. They happen to walk. In the case of Tamir Rice, for example, that officer faced no charges. He was not indicted. He just got to walk. So, and in this case, of course, it was the complete opposite. The officer decided not to shoot, but to get a peaceful resolution, to try to de-escalate the situation. He ends up getting punched for it. No. If anything shows how big of a problem we have in America when it comes to policing, it should be this. Now, finally, I do want to give Mader's perspective on what he would do if asked if he would do anything differently. He said, quote, I wouldn't change anything. Even after them saying that I failed to eliminate a threat and that it should have been handled differently, I still believe I did the right thing. And a lot of people also think I did the right thing, because after this went public, he's actually received a lot of support from other police officers who said, hey, I'm with you, man. You did the right thing. So again, we like to broad brush the police sometimes. I know, I think I've done it on the show before, and I try being very careful not to, because there are a lot of good police officers out there that would do the same thing that Stephen Mater had done. Try to de-escalate the situation. It's a difficult job, and it's not to justify when they do mess up, but it is a difficult job, and I think they need to change the training so they can actually do better. Now, again, it's not just you, right? It's not just Mater, right? He did a great job. There are a lot of police that also do a good job, and he should be a model to police officers everywhere, and I think he is, going out of your way to do the right thing. And look, we should take his example and start applying it to all the different departments, starting with the Weirton Department, changing that training to emphasize de-escalation, to emphasize trying to not use deadly force as the first resort, but as the last resort, as they should. And hopefully this lawsuit might actually force some of the other departments, or at least maybe this department, depending if he won, to change that culture of policing away from shoot first, ask questions later, to something that focuses more on de-escalation and is a much more positive way of dealing with the community. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.